Hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to Fridays with Sandy. That would be Sandy Kreisberg, the founder of HBSGuru.com. There he is.
Shalom, everybody. Happy July 4th. And we've got a very interesting candidate named Sean Yin. Sean, why don't you just say hi and briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sean. Right now, I work at a global biopharmaceutical company as a technical project manager.
That would be Novartis. We use proper nouns here. Our listeners really want to know the real thing. Okay, John.
This is a great and prestigious company, obviously. Sean has worked there for 4 years since he graduated from Lehigh with a degree in chemical engineering. He had a 3.2, and we're going to get into that a little bit. He has a very impressive GMAT score, 740, and he's applying to MIT, Columbia, Yale, and Duke.
Yeah, the 740 also has great splits. It's 90% verbal, 80% quant. So the 3.2 is the boo-boo. Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, this guy is a very powerful candidate. Now, let's just deal with the skeleton in the closet. Sean, you applied last year. Where did you apply and what happened?
Yeah, so I applied to HBS, applied to MIT LGO, Wharton, and Columbia. So didn't get any interviews anywhere. So 4 rejections.
Ding, 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 ding. What do you think happened? What did you say?
I think my post MBA goal was probably not the best fit, especially given that it didn't really.
What did you say it was?
It was operations management in a global biopharmaceutical company. So like operations manager, producing.
Was that the job you wanted after your MBA, or was that your
ultimate goal,
career goal?
I think upon reflecting, consulting is.
No, just what did you say?
Oh, I said, yeah, operations management
was the end.
Short term, and long term is working at a contract manufacturing company, helping universities and academic institutions scale up their novel therapies and research.
This is interesting because I don't think your goals were ambitious enough for the schools that you applied to, because short term that would have been fine, but long term they want to see you as a leader in this industry. And
you didn't want an MBA, and you didn't know what an MBA was. That was one of your problems.
Yeah, it's a route to true senior leadership in important organizations, and that's what they want to know you want, because that's what the degree would be ideal for. Working for a contractor, it's just too low. Low ambition, frankly,
and odd. Like where it came out of no place. There was no place in your background. There was no place in your back. You're just like you were interested in helping academic institutions, buy their pencils and pens. Where did that come from?
So I guess in pharma industry, some companies they use, especially at early stage, use other companies to scale up their processes.
Yeah, Bob, you're not even answering the questions. Stay with pharma, okay? Let me tell you what your goal is. Your goal is to be an impactful leader at a major pharmaceutical company, such as Bang, 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 and Bang.
Yeah, that's it. Or a biotech company, whatever. But just make sure.
Yeah, or biotech. Good point.
You want to be a player. You don't want to be a spoke in the wheel. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. He's got that now. So the homework you have to do is to be able to. Well, let's see if you can do it. Name some pharmaceutical companies you admire and why.
I think the company I work for, Novartis, is one because they bring a lot of advanced therapies in oncology or rare diseases where patients right now don't have treatment, and Novartis is one of the players that develop these therapies to meet these unmet needs.
Yeah, good. Could you name some other companies you admire?
Sure. Pfizer, GSK.
Okay, good. And you should have a little rap about that. Sometimes we're not going to do it here, but sometimes an interviewer will just get a bone in their throat about the other companies, and they'll just keep asking about it. They'll say, "Well, how does Pfizer differentiate itself? What do you think, Novartis?" Well, no, that is an interesting question. There's SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Have you heard of that term?
No.
Well, it's self-explanatory. It's the way a business school looks at a company. What are the company's strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are their opportunities? And what are their threats? Could you do that with Novartis?
Sure. I think Novartis is, one of the major players in oncology area and gene and cell therapy. It's one of the few companies that have launched and marketed products right now that can treat patients with these kind of diseases. Pfizer, as everyone knows, is a huge player in the vaccine field.
No, just stick with Novartis. Tell me what Novartis' strengths.
Yeah.
The kind of answer they're looking for is they got several strengths. I think their leadership is a strength, and I think that's proven by the fact that the CEO blah blah has done this and this, and that's been reflected in both the company's rankings on lists and its stock price compared to other companies. I think another strength it has is a deep bench of products. It's got evergreen products and it's got innovative products. I'm making this up, but that's the way you do it. Okay?
And then you go to opportunities.
Well, you go to weaknesses.
Right.
I see.
What do you think that could you tell me what you think the company's weaknesses are?
I think the weakness is compared to the global share of this company, doesn't have a huge presence in the US. So from the commercial perspective, the company could definitely increase its access.
Okay, here's a question you will definitely be asked at an interview. Yeah, and could you tell me what Novartis is and what they do?
Novartis is a global biopharmaceutical company that provides treatments to patients. It varies from generic diseases, pills, to $500,000, $2 million per dose treatments, such as, it's oncology.
Yeah, you're not answering the question. You're just saying odd things that come to mind. You and everybody else this is something worth being scripted and then trying to say in a little bit of a conversational way. Novartis is a pharmaceutical company. It's listed. It's headquartered in Switzerland. It's a Swiss company. It's got a co-headquarters in the U.S. Its major products are blah, blah, and blah. You get it? You should really have that under. Everybody should be able to say that about the company they work for. Good. Could you tell me what you do? Your resume says technical product manager. What do you do there?
So I lead a matrix team to develop novel therapies from early stage to filing with FDA to bring this to clinical trial and eventually get approval from the FDA so patients can have access to the new treatments.
What'd you think of that answer, John?
Well, I think that's pretty good.
What's a matrix team?
So matrix team
when I started tuning out.
Yeah, so I guess in this team, I don't have direct reports, but I still have to manage the whole team. So people from other functions, in a way, report.
Oh, you gotta put this in a conversational way. They say, "What do you do at Novartis?" You go, "I work with a team I lead a team of 12 people. Those include some lab people, some business people, whatever the truth is." Yeah. And what we try and do is either whatever it is, develop new drugs or support drugs. Can you answer it that way?
Sure, yeah. So I lead a team about 15 people from different functions. Some of them are in lab, some of them are in quality and regulatory affairs. our goal is to develop new therapies and bring them to the FDA to enter clinical trials and eventually get approval so patients can have access to new treatments.
So that sounds, you go from like idea to putting the stuff in bottles and shipping it out to pharmacies. Is that right? That's what you said.
Yeah. So we're doing product process development. So making sure the product is safe. It's to ensure its safety, efficacy.
So where do you get the products from that you're testing?
We're developing these new products.
Now, what about the big boo-boo on the application, the GPA? How does Sean explain that away and make it not a red flag?
Did your grades get better?
So it started high, it got worse, and it got slightly better towards the end.
Ouch. What really happened? Tell me what really happened before we try and put some lipstick on that.
Sure. So I had two reasons. One was I did a competitive co-op program in school. So for one full semester, I was interning with a company instead of taking classes. So because of that, I had to take additional classes in other.
Did you have any culture shock?
And we should point out that you were born and raised in China and you moved to the US in 2014 to go to undergrad at Lehigh, which we didn't mention before.
When did you start Lehigh?
2014. Okay,
so you started Lehigh and you arrived at the United States at the same time.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's got to
that could not have been easy.
That last time, I mean, did you put a little thing in there that said this is the formula, okay? My 3.2 GPA at Lehigh is not predictive of the success I'm going to have at the Harvard Business School. First of all, I began Lehigh as when I moved from China to the US, I began in the same year. So there was some adjustments to be made, both in terms of language and just in terms of culture changes. And then what I did, so the first thing is, one explanation for why the 3.2 is not predictive is, hey folks, I just got here and I just started college in a new country, okay? The second was, I misbalanced my academic work with other things that interested me. For instance, I spent a semester doing whatever that thing is that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to catch on, okay? And these things are not going to happen at the Harvard or MIT business school here.
And then there's a third thing. You had significant surgery while you're an undergraduate student that hampered your ability to even write.
Yeah, that's worth mentioning, although sure, mention that too, but the first two are for real.
Yeah. Yeah, and he did have the surgery, and it was on his writing hand. And,
yeah, just between me and you, Sean, do you think the surgery had anything to do with your grades?
I think in a way, yeah. So it was. Yeah.
All right, you convinced me. Put it in there.
Okay.
Good.
Now, I wonder how Sean addressed this weakness in his earlier round of applications. Did he ignore it? Did he just not go there?
Sean, what's the answer? John wants to know.
Yeah, so I put two sentences in the optional essay mentioning I had a surgery in college that impacted my academic performance, and that was essentially it.
Okay, so the language that Sandy is suggesting is absolutely imperative for you, that your performance is not indicative of your academic ability, and here
not predictive.
Why? Yeah, not predictive. And here are 3 reasons why. And go with the transition from China. You'd never been in the US before coming here for college, right?
Visited when I was 13, 11,
right, yeah.
weeks. But yeah, it's definitely different, from visiting.
Well, here's both an interview question and material for this essay we're writing. Did you experience culture shock when you came to the US in 2014, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about it.
Yeah, so the college experience was not what I expected. before I moved to the US. I did not expect so much extracurricular activities such as clubs, a lot of the,
The college experience was a culture shock for a number of ways. One thing that I didn't realize how many kids from New York there were there.
Yeah.
I think that's true, right?
Yeah, there were a lot. And also, I guess, moving, so when I was in China, I was living in a big city versus moving to a rural area of Pennsylvania. I think that experience also caught me off guard a little.
Yeah.
Boy, how? What was the impact of that? Would you miss all night newsstands or what?
Like just the food options to, transportation where you can take public transportation everywhere versus, in a small town, you would need cars to get around.
Sure.
Yeah, that's secondarily impressive to me.
Yeah.
So I also wonder what Sean wrote about in his essay to Harvard Business School.
We'll get to that. Let me point out something even more important.
Yeah.
For a re-app, what am I going to ask him, John?
What's changed since you applied last time? And what's changed?
Correct.
You're now a project manager managing 15 people as opposed to an engineer.
This is critical. That's both for your essay and also here's an interview question. Could you tell me what you do?
So as a technical project manager, I lead a team of about 15 members to advance therapeutics. So my responsibilities include setup timeline, budget, and follow up on a lot of the action items with the team members to.
Is this your first experience in managing other people?
Oh, so sorry. Did you mean like engineer one?
No, in your technical project manager job, this is the first time you've ever managed.
We're not breaking your balls now. This is a real question you will be asked, and it often is the first question.
Yeah.
Hello there. How are you? Could you tell me what you do as a technical project manager at Novartis?
Yeah. So as a technical project manager, I manage a team of 15 members to develop novel therapies through clinical trials and get FDA approval.
So you manage clinical. What does it mean to manage a clinical trial?
So I manage process development teams to make sure the new treatments are safe, are effective.
Yeah, how do you do that? Like, do you take them yourself, or do you hire people as guinea pigs, or do you test them on animals, or what?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure. So exactly. So we have a team of scientists in the lab to develop treatments, and then we test on mice and then monkeys to make sure they're safe and effective.
Huh. So you spend a lot of your time checking in on the health of mice and monkeys. That's what it boils down to, doesn't it?
Part of it.
Yeah. Well, what's the other? Good. What's the other part?
Yeah. So the other part would be to make sure the new treatment meets all the FDA guidelines. It's doesn't have impurities in it. It won't cause adverse effects in patients.
How's that different than the first part?
You're right. It's similar.
Uh-huh.
Okay, man. I'm not gonna squeeze this out now. You've got to get that under control. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sandy, I want to go back to your other question, which you asked: had he managed people as an engineer before becoming technical project manager?
Yeah, that's a good, John.
And the reason for that is because here's one thing you need to say. I've had 3 promotions in 3 years, but the most meaningful promotion has been as a project manager, where I now have to lead 15 different people. And
they're going to do a whole bunch of questions. What kind of manager are you? If I asked the people you worked for what it's like to be managed by Sean, what would they say?
They will say I'm a pretty hands-off manager who is good at communicating timelines and updates, and who's open to feedback.
Okay.
So I wonder what you think Sean's odds are as a reapplicant at MIT and Columbia, and then as a new applicant at Yale and Duke.
You've become a manager since you last applied, right?
Correct. Yeah. New job this year.
That's major. All right. The question, and you're something they're looking for. Business schools are dying for people like you at the intersection of pharmaceuticals and management. And you got the 740 with wonderful splits. So the question is, who's going to blink at the boo-boo? Right?
Yeah, and I guess I should mention that I also am trying to build a alternative transcript by taking classes at.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Is that necessary? And here's why I asked. While your GPA is low, the truth is you majored in chemical engineering, you have a successful career at Novartis. I don't think there should be any question that you can do the quant work. So is an alternative transcript a good idea in this profile?
What courses are you taking, and how much of a pain in the neck is it?
Statistics and like a math for management. And to be honest, I think those courses are quite easy for me.
Sure, because your quant score on the GMAT is very healthy, 87%.
Yeah.
How much of a pain in the neck is it? It might not be necessary, but it does show that you are gung-ho about the process and getting in, which is something they respect.
And maybe as a reapplicant who's been turned down at Columbia and MIT, that may be also helpful too.
Yeah.
Because it shows that you're going the extra mile to satisfy them.
You weren't able to get feedback, or you didn't bother? Doesn't Columbia give feedback?
I didn't ask.
It's hard to, it's so hard to get feedback from these schools because they're inundated with applicants and they turn so many down. So do you think,
John, what schools have actual feedback? Like, doesn't HBS, if you post-interview reject feedback, what business schools offer that, John?
I think very few that have very friendly, open admissions offices. I'm thinking of Darden, Michigan.
Okay.
I think Duke would, schools like that. Harvard, Wharton, MIT, Stanford, no.
If you could just get, no.
Yeah.
But
you really identified the two core weaknesses in Sean's first attempt. And one was not properly explaining away the 3.2 in a convincing fashion.
Right. And
secondly was stating career goals that were not ambitious enough and that didn't really require an MBA. Yeah. I think those two things addressed could make a very big difference. In addition to the fact that after all, he got a big promotion. Now he's leading a team of 15 people. Before he applied as a singular engineer. He's got 3 promotions in 3 years.
Well, you're good at this, John.
Yeah, he's worked on a major drug that, my God, costs $2 million a dose, which incidentally raises all kinds of ethical issues. But that's
why I don't want to get involved in that.
I know exactly. But that's big stake stuff at Novartis.
Yeah, it's big stake stuff. It's interesting. It's blah 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 blah. You don't know anything about. You don't know more about it, Sean. You don't know more about that than anybody, and it's just going to turn into a general conversation. Look, if it's there, it's there. I wouldn't. It's not a plus.
Yeah,
they're just going to break your balls over it. They're going to go. Why can't you get the price down? That's outrageous.
I think that's now my post MBA goal is to working pricing strategy to make sure drugs are fairly priced. For the most part, these drugs, the government or the insurers pay for most of it, so patients usually don't have a lot of out-of-pocket costs.
Yes.
Yeah. That is not a wide enough goal. Your long-term goal is to be an impactful leader of a pharmaceutical company, and it could be, or that could mean heading major companies like Novartis or Pfizer or blah blah, or exciting biotech companies. That is your goal.
Totally.
To manage an entity like that.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in trying to fix some wacko drug problem.
So now you get MIT and Columbia. What is it? What are his chances as a reapplicant if he does what we're telling him to do? I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, particularly if you get your story better, and you've taken those extra courses, boy, that shows a real devotion to getting in, which they respect. I think your chances. Boy, HBS could go for this, and they'd be the easiest one to blink at a low GPA because they can afford it, and they might go for a guy like you. I mean, you're totally up their alley. So I think your chances of getting interviewed at HBS could be like 25-30%, which is saying something.
That's very good.
Well, given that the index is like 11, yeah.
Yep. It would be pretty much the same at MIT and Columbia, don't you think? Maybe even a little bit higher at Columbia, maybe.
The problem is you're competing against guys like you without your problems.
That's true.
There's a lot of white males coming out of pharmaceutical companies who are applying to business school. So that's who your real competition is.
Yeah. And, instead of going Lehigh, they may have gone to Harvard, Princeton, or Yale. Instead of
but mostly they might
have a 3.2, they have a 3.8.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But you got a lot here. You've done really well for yourself.
Yeah, you've done really well, and you're a project manager at a leading drug company. That's very attractive.
Yeah. And then Yale and Duke, what do you think the odds are?
I think you should get into Duke. I mean, I think that
yeah.
Well, John, what would you propose as a safety school for Sean?
Vanderbilt. And here's why. Nashville is really the capital of healthcare in America, and Vanderbilt has a fantastic.
I thought that was Boston.
No. I believe that 2/3 of the hospital.
Hey, John, you get sick, you go to Vanderbilt. I get sick, I'm staying at Mass General. But let's move right along there.
2/3 of the hospital beds in America are managed out of Nashville.
Okay, hospital management. Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, but it goes way beyond that, and they have a fantastic.
Okay, Vanderbilt. What else?
Area.
Okay, we'll take it or leave it.
Johns Hopkins University Business School, because they're really truly leveraging their medical school and the whole business of health. So those are safety schools for you, I think, but they're good safety schools that would allow you.
Johns Hopkins would be great, man.
Yeah,
don't you think?
Yes, because they've got a new dean there. He's very dynamic, and he's really positioned the MBA well, and he's doing partnerships with the med school and science departments at Johns Hopkins. So it's a really exciting place to be.
Hey, Sean, are you sold?
Yeah.
Well, we want you to apply to schools that you really want to go to, but if you want two safety schools, I'd say Johns Hopkins and Vanderbilt.
Man, I would go to Johns Hopkins. It's over a lot of places, maybe even like Wharton or Sloan.
Yeah, great advice.
But, and once you've done a couple of applications, and it's like, since you went through this one time, the second time is going to be easier and it's going to be better. Because the more you do this, the better you get.
Yeah, for sure.
So I do 6 schools instead of 4. And I would take, frankly, Sandy's advice, and I'd do Harvard again. You never know.
Yeah.
Sean, I do think that you definitely would benefit from someone.
You'd benefit from a consultant who could write you
reading your essays
for your recommenders.
Yeah, reading your essays and helping you guide your recommenders to give you the best possible recommendations.
Yeah.
This is general advice. You have to manage your recommenders. What you should do is give your recommenders an outline saying, oh, recommender, I know you're so busy. Here's an outline of what I've accomplished in case you've forgotten. And it also includes what my goals are. You should prepare, everyone should prepare it. This is under the topic of recommender management. I mean,
Yeah.
have the people you used as recommenders, have they ever written recommendations for business school before?
No, first time.
Well, there you go. They really need help.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I think we've given you more advice than you can swallow, but you can watch the video. Okay.
Sean, good luck to you. Okay. Look, you're highly accomplished. We like you. We think you're going to get into several of these schools, and particularly if you add the 2 safety schools, and any of these schools, an MBA program would be great for you. So good luck to you, and let us know how it all turns out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right. There you go. That's John Byrne with Poets and Quants. You've been watching Fridays with Sandy.